I opened the curtains and I was like, that's like a fairy tale.
Cool.
Literally.
Speaking of which, that's very well.
See, yeah, good transition for you.
Yeah, very well done. Okay, so I see a lot of raised hands, so I'll be with you immediately. But first, I would like you to, for those very few who do not know your character in Once Upon a Time, could you tell us a little bit about Emma and how you got the part?
Sure. Emma Swan is the child of Snow White and Prince Charming, and the role was offered to me, which was really an incredible honor. It's unusual to have a job like that come your way. You know, things come around, but I knew this was really special. And I was working on How I Met Your Mother at the time. And the schedules were conflicting, so it was looking like it wasn't going to work out for me to say yes. And Craig and Carter, who are the showrunners on How I Met Your Mother, were kind enough to switch the second to last episode of season 6 with the last episode in order for my schedule to work for me to do the pilot of House. So if it weren't for them, I would not have been able to be Emma. So they were incredibly generous to make that work for me. Wait, which was the other one?
The Storybrooke General.
Oh, Princeton Plainsboro.
Hi. So my question is, how do you deal with disrespectful or inappropriate questions?
I just don't answer them.
Hi. So I saw your Instagram story that you hadn't had much sleep. So did you get any rest before you changed to your...
I got some rest in spurts. I went to sleep pretty early, so I slept from about 11 to 3, and then I was up from 3 to 5, and then I kind of slept from 5 to 7. So, you know, it all adds up. I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. Gosh, I mean, I thought you were going to ask me who would play me, and my
Okay, you can say that too. I was wondering as well.
Well, no, I always say Jessica Herman would play me because she knows me better than anybody else, wherever she is.
And as a sidekick?
I don't know if I could choose one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that all the people that I've worked with, those people have been sidekicks to the characters that I've played, not necessarily in my own real life, you know? So, as much as it was very lucky that I had chemistry with those actors for the characters, I have such incredible friends in my real life that I'm super, super close to. So, I don't know that anyone who I've acted with would be the actual sidekick. And it's on YouTube, so no. You can watch it all day long, over and over again. I was coerced into that. I don't even really remember what Chewbacca sounds like, so.
Hi, I'm a moderator on a Once Upon a Time community, and I know that a lot of people on there find you inspirational, and also the character of Emma. And I was wondering if you could sort of say a little message that I could put on later from you to them.
Oh, well, that's so nice that you do that. What a cool thing. I love that. One of the things I love the most, I'm totally diverting from your question for a second, but I promise I'll get back to it. One of the things I love most about Once Upon a Time is the way that it's brought so many people together. So hearing that you're a part of moderating a community of people that talk about the show and have become friends because of the show, I think that's one of the things that makes me feel the most fulfilled for having been able to play Emma and be a part of Once Upon a Time. So that's really cool. Yeah, and in terms of putting something on that site, I don't know, I guess, you know, we're in a crazy time in the world where, especially, I guess, I'm not as aware, I guess, of European politics as I am American politics right now, but there's so many ups and downs and intense diversions and things, and so the inspiration that I look to right now is what do we have in common? You know, what are our similarities, not what are our differences, and how do we meet in the middle, and how do we find a solution where we can take care of each other instead of fight each other? Any what stories?
I don't know, just if you have a team or something.
A type of story that I want to tell?
Something that you want to tell.
You know, this is a question that I get asked when I'm interviewing with executives and producers and things, and it's tricky because I don't know exactly how to explain how I choose material. I just sort of feel it. I kind of know when I read it that it's something I have to do. But I do definitely gravitate to stories about outsiders. You know, if you've seen Sundogs, it's definitely about a guy who feels like an outsider and he feels misunderstood. And even my first short film, Morning Labels, was a similar thing where they were all kind of misunderstood in different ways. So I think I definitely gravitate to that story, and I probably will continue to gravitate to stories that try to provoke empathy for people who feel misunderstood. Oh, sure. I don't know where you are. You're just a voice out there somewhere. Aw.
I know it's hard because I study acting myself. It's hard because in the beginning of Once Upon a Time you're like not believing, and then you're belief, and then like you play the Black Swan, and that's a lot of difference to play. So did you think it was hard to play the different roles in one person?
I really enjoy that element. I mean, I think that that's part of the joy of Once Upon a Time for me as well, which is that, you know, sometimes... Sorry, are you somewhere else? Are you this way? I'm looking into the darkness. It's a sea of darkness out there. Am I looking the right direction? Does anyone know? Okay. So I actually really enjoyed the different parts of Emma because I felt like it was nice to have a challenge to find different parts of her. And I think that in real life, there's different parts of all of us. I think that's a very real part of being a whole person, you know? No one is entirely consistently exactly one way all the time. You know, there's moments that we're strong, there's moments that we're vulnerable, there's moments that we're silly, there's moments that we're very serious, you know, and all of those things live inside all of us. And so I felt like it was a really wonderful thing to be able to find all those different parts of Emma and be able to explore that as an actor. And there certainly was a challenge to that. I took it very seriously in terms of trying to make it as true and right for Emma as possible, but it was something that I really enjoyed. Yeah, absolutely. I think that every character I play changes my real life in some way. You know, I do a tremendous amount of research for all the characters that I play, and that inevitably impacts my perspective and impacts my awareness of certain things. And you know, I think Emma is someone who had to overcome a lot of obstacles to be able to be close to certain people in her life, and that I think she was hurt in certain ways very young, and so her guard was up. And even though I wasn't in my own life hurt in the ways that Emma was, I've definitely had my own share of emotional wounds that made me closed off in some ways. And so I think sometimes as Emma was working through those things, it made me question my own life and some of my own decisions, and I think it helped me to start opening up in other ways as well.
Hello. I actually have a question that's about a colleague of yours. How is it to work with Lana?
It's great. Honestly, we were so lucky with this cast because everyone is so good at their job and everyone cared so much about their characters, and we all felt very lucky to be there. So across the board, we all had a great time.
Hi, I'm Benna. I come from Denmark, so it's really nice to have you in Europe.
I just wanted to congratulate you on Sundogs, and I recognized a scene where in the window you could see the yellow beetle from Once Upon a Time, and I absolutely loved seeing it, so I just wanted to ask if you wanted it in there as a reference to your many years in Once Upon a Time.
It was sort of, that was part of it for sure. It's interesting because the yellow bug, I think for Emma, was a little bit of a reference to films that Eddie and Adam love, that I also love, which is Harold and Maude and Annie Hall. That yellow bug shows up through classic films all the time. And so I think initially that choice to have her drive that car was their sort of ode to those films, which are, like I said, also films that I love. So it was a continuation of that ode, in addition to also knowing that obviously it was Emma's car. But it came up naturally because we asked Allison Janney what car she wanted her character to drive, and that was the car she chose. So it was kind of a sort of perfect match of, you know, she wanted to drive a Volkswagen, and it sort of worked to be a little bit of a hat tip to not only Emma, but some of the films that I love. Which I don't ever know if any advice is the best advice. I go back to this a lot. It's something I said at the San Diego Comic-Con years ago, and I said, be brave enough to be yourself and be good to each other, which I think is really the root of everything that you would need, not just as an artist, but in life in general. It's something that I have to remind myself of, and something that I kind of came to recently, because sometimes, you know, it is intimidating and vulnerable to be creative in front of other people and to feel like everything you do is definitely going to be judged at some point, and it's hard to get out of your head and not overthink that sometimes. And it kind of occurred to me that it's a very brave thing to be artistic and to offer that to the world. And so I would just say to you, you know, just know that what you're doing is brave, and embrace that and enjoy that, and know that sometimes that will be uncomfortable, but that's part of it.
Hi, I have a question with regards to one of your movies, Warrior. What was your best take, or what do you take away from working with Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton?
Oh, I had such an amazing experience working on Warrior. I didn't have any scenes with Tom. I mean, I wish I had. He's a wonderful actor. We got along great. He's, you know, just, as we've all seen, just incredible at what he does. He continues to pleasantly surprise everybody with these incredible roles that he takes on. But I did get to work with Joel a tremendous amount, and it was one of the most special experiences of my career, for sure. He's just so present and so connected and so thoughtful and so intelligent, and yeah, I don't know. It was really. I don't even quite have words for it. We got to just completely enjoy being those characters together, and I felt like there wasn't a single self-conscious moment between us because he is so present and connected and wonderful. So, you know, that was just an absolute pleasure in every way. I don't know. I feel like a lot of my favorites have already been made or are being made. My answer to that used to always be the Elena Ferrante books, but now HBO is making them. So, I mean, I'm just excited to see those books come to life. I was just thinking the other day, I think I'm going to do a reread of that whole set of 4. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like most of the books that I really love, the classics, have all been made. So they're all out there somewhere.
Hi. Which episodes of over the years from Once Upon a Time you found most difficult to act?
I think, you know, it's hard to remember sometimes because it all kind of blends together a little bit. But definitely a scene that was tricky, I think for both Colin and me, was the scene when Emma was dark and Hook was dark, and Emma had to kill Dark Hook for like the right reasons. That all sounds crazy when I say it out loud, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And it was a really emotional scene. It was a scene that we ended up having to shoot twice because of the weather and because of the location. So we had gone through all of those emotions and gotten ourselves there once already, and then had to revisit it and go through all of it again. And I think it's always difficult to try to wrap your brain around this, how high the stakes would be to actually believe that circumstance, you know. So that was definitely a scene that I think both Colin and I felt like was a really challenging scene to deal with. And I definitely wanted to be a part of it. You know, the show was such a huge part of my life, and really it just came down to having to work out my schedule. So luckily we were able to make it work, but you know, because of my schedule, they had to shoot my stuff separately from some of the cast. It would have been nice to be able to have been there with everybody and sort of had a reunion, but I ended up shooting with Colin and Jared and Lana. So, you know, it was just, I felt like it was a beautiful way to be able to go back and have closure and say goodbye to this character that I loved so much, and say goodbye to the crew and the writers and the cast that was there. And yeah, it was just really nice closure on a really special part of my life.
And my question is, how would you describe your relationship between Regina and Emma? And what has been your favorite scene with her?
You know, I would say, I think there was such an incredible journey between those two characters because, you know, obviously they started as adversaries because they had two very different perspectives about Henry and what to do in terms of the adoptive mother and the birth mother situation. And I really love what the writers did there in terms of not having these two women stay adversaries, but actually have them work through their conflict and figure out what the common ground is and realize that they had something very, very much in common, which is that they both loved Henry and they both wanted the best for him. So I think that grew into a really beautiful friendship and a really true agreement between them to both be mothers to Henry and find a way to do that in a way that they were all a family. And I thought that was really cool and really rare on television.
Hello. Are there future movies or series which we don't know about it?
I don't know. I mean, I have several things that I'm developing right now, but that takes time, you know, so those things, they fall into place one piece at a time. It doesn't happen super quickly. I have a couple offers for things for November, December this year as an actor that I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do or which I'm going to do. And I did a film called, well, Backroads will be out. I'm not sure what the release date is for Backroads, but that'll be out. And then, I'm trying to think, I did the Torture Report, which I don't know if it's going to continue being called that, but that will come out in the next year as well. I think that's it from the acting side in terms of, for sure, things that are coming out soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm attached to things to direct, and I'm attached to things as an actor, and I'm developing those projects, so, you know, it'll come together eventually.
Hello. I was wondering what would be your favorite comfort food, or what would you turn to in terms of, like, you know, if you're ever stressed or you need.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting because I think of the normal comfort foods. I love like pasta and pizza, you know, things like that. Grilled cheese was a big favorite when I was a kid, but these days I try really hard to eat healthy just because I feel better. So as much as I have like kind of loved those things in the past, now I gravitate more to salads and fish and things like that. So even when I'm stressed, I actually find the healthier I am in those moments, the better I feel, as opposed to indulging in something that's just going to make me feel crappy.
And I loved you playing Cameron in House, and I was wondering what your best memories from the show were.
Gosh, I mean, there are so many great memories from the show, and I think some of them I don't even remember. I mean, it's so crazy how long ago that was now. We started that show in 2004. You know, things live online now in a way where they sort of feel recent, even though they were a long time ago. But I think, you know, there was something really special about shooting that pilot. You know, Bryan Singer shot the pilot, and really created an interesting visual language for the show, and just meeting that whole group of actors and working with Hugh Laurie for the first time, and working with Omar and Jesse and Lisa and Robert Sean Leonard, who I just absolutely adore. There was just something, there was such an energy to that whole group of people immediately, so there was something really special about the pilot and being able to have that all happen for the first time. I definitely know that people are very aware of wanting to hire women and wanting to help women grow in terms of directing and producing and behind the camera, and all of the roles that we've sort of traditionally heard were not going to women. You know, there's definitely a very open awareness and push to embrace that, which I think is great. But I also think that there are really subtle things that it's going to just take a really long time for us to work out. You know, the amount of times you get sort of talked over in a meeting and someone doesn't even realize that they're interrupting you because it never occurred to them that they're interrupting you, and they would never interrupt a man that way, or that, you know, I don't know, a male director might do one short film and then get hired to shoot a huge $50 million movie, and with a female director it still feels like you have to prove yourself 3 or 4 or 5 times before, you know, and it's those are the more subtle things that I think we're still kind of trying to dig out, where for some reason there's still this propensity to think that a man can do it no matter what, whereas like a woman has to keep proving herself over and over again, and then maybe she can do it, you know? So there is definitely a shift, and there's definitely a push to support female content creators, and there is by far more opportunities than there ever has been before, and we're definitely improving, but there's still room for us to get better at it, for sure.
So I think we all know that Emma has a red jacket that she loves, and I was wondering if you have one as well, and if you don't have one, what would you think is your favorite clothing item you would gravitate to?
I did have a favorite red jacket for Emma. I mean, I liked all of Emma's jackets, but when it came to the actual red one, there was probably like 47 of those jackets, because we lost my favorite one at one point. And they brought all 46 of the other ones to my trailer, and I was like, this is literally not, none of these 46 are the one I love. But we found it, it was fine. But I don't even know how or why I loved that one so much, but it just felt like the right one. I don't own a red leather jacket, personally, because I feel like that's Emma's thing, and it's, I don't know, I don't typically adopt things that my characters wear into my own life. I typically am sort of very separate from what they do. Usually actually opposite in some ways. It's almost like I have to kind of balance it out in some way. You know, it's like Emma was always in like pants and jeans, and so I always wanted to be in dresses personally. You know, it was just like I needed the balance in my life. And then in my own life, in terms of something that's a comfort, I don't know if I have any one piece of clothing. I mean, I have a handful of things that I'm very comfortable in, that I love. And I was just saying even today when I was signing autographs, you know, it's like, I've worn this dress before. You guys have seen me, I don't know if you guys personally have, but I've been photographed in it before. Like, I try to just, like, have a closet of things that I love and wear and rewear them, like, you know, people do. I know a lot of times actors are, like, only seen in something once, but that just doesn't really work for me. So I have a lot of things that I feel comforted by. I feel like the one thing that's like my safety blanket, though, is probably my coffee. I feel like that's the thing that I like hang on to. It keeps me going, keeps me alert. I really enjoy it, and it's just like comforting. You know, it's warm, it's cozy.
What is on your bucket list right now?
What?
What is on your bucket list right now?
On my bucket list?
Yes.
Goodness. I keep trying to take a break, and it doesn't go well. I have this like fantasy of waking up in the morning and having no idea what's going to happen that day. I'll get there. I swear it's going to happen at some point. I thought that I was going to do that for a couple weeks in September this year, and then just a bunch of stuff came up that I couldn't say no to, and I felt like I had to do it. So I know that sounds like a really weird thing to be on the bucket list, but that's definitely on the bucket list. And there's a lot of traveling that I want to do, but that's tricky because I spend a lot of time working away from home. So when I'm not working away from home, I really want to be home. Even though, like, you know, I want to go to Ireland, and I want to go to Asia, and I want to go to China, and you know, there's all these places that I would love to visit, and I'm sure someday I will go there. Like, I would love to be able to spend more time here, but I need to rush back for meetings. So, you know, sometimes I wish that I could put more hours in the day so that I could do stuff like that as well.
Right, that's all we have time for right now. Give it up for Jennifer Morrison!